There are more than 300 memorials set across 150 acres at the Arboretum. They include a section of the infamous Burma Railway built by Allied prisoners of war, 16,000 of whom died during its construction. This is the original lich gate from the notorious Changi jail in Singapore. In 1942, there were more than 250,000 Allied military personnel and civilians in internment camps in the Far East, and over 80,000 of them were women and children. Pam Rhodes has been to meet one of them.
I was 12 and a half years old when I was captured. There was my grandmother, my mother, and 5 children.
Jane Elgie spent 4 years of her childhood in Japanese prisoner of war camps.
We were trying to escape Singapore and trying to get on a boat, and we eventually got on the Matahari, and the Japanese spotted us and boarded the ship and took us to Muntok Pier. And then from there we went from one camp to another.
Of all the places you went to, what were the worst memories, the worst conditions, and how was it? It
was more starvation, and we never had any meat, hardly any, maybe a small piece between so many people. And the vegetables that came were rotten, really big cucumbers that were yellow, but we had to eat it. And we got some tapioca full of weevils, and the rice was full of weevils as well. And when you complained to the Japanese, they said that's meat that with, you know, the worms.
On returning home, Jane and her brother depicted life in captivity in these vivid drawings. Also in the camps with Jane was Sheila Brown, who passed on her experiences to her daughter Margie. Margie's mother told her the story of Margaret Dryborough, an English missionary who was also interned with Jane in the camps.
Faith was there from the word go.
And it's faith really, you know, prayers every night, saying prayers. I think that's what got us through really.
Margaret Dryborough started a choir, and so then they were able to sing anthems and psalms.
Margaret also composed hymns for the choir, one of which she called the Captives' Hymn.
People were so moved by the words of the hymn that it very quickly became the camp hymn, and that was sung every Sunday throughout camp.
When the choir was rehearsing in the kitchen, my brother was very ill in the hospital, and suddenly he heard this choir singing. He was dying, and he thought it was the angels singing, and it sort of bucked him up to hear them singing. It's getting me emotional. Sorry.
70 years after the hymn was sung for the final time in the camps, we arranged for Jane to hear it sung once more.
A truly moving performance there, and that hymn's origins all the more remarkable as it was composed in such trying circumstances. Later, we'll join one family as they embark on a very personal journey of discovery and reflection on VJ Day. But first, a hymn about the cornerstone of the Christian faith. Kevin and Kana Jones are lifelong Christians, and they've arrived at the Arboretum so that their children can learn more about VJ Day and their family's role in it. Nice to meet you, Kevin.
Nice to meet you.
Kana, hi, you're Sammy and Talitha.
For
an Anglo-Japanese family, it's going to be a very poignant day.
My grandfather was captured in American camp for about a year. And he survived after that and come back to Japan.
And it was an important day for your parents as well, wasn't it?
That's right. My parents were busy celebrating VJ Day with a bonfire up in the Lake District.
Tell us though, what brings you here today?
Well, it's very important that the next generation realise the way that people suffered on both sides and help us realise the futility of conflict.
The Anglo-Japanese Peace Grove was established in 2001 and contains a stone from Hiroshima. It's the perfect place for reflection. And Sammy and Talitha can take in the names of the people commemorated here. Kana's grandfather, Tsuneo Hoshino, served with the Japanese army as a meteorologist and in 1944 was captured on the Pacific island of Guam. As a chief code writer, he was later interrogated at an internment camp in California.
They found out he knew code, special code about the weather. And they asked him, what would you like to do? And then he said he would like to read the Bible. And they really shocked that they find out that there was a Japanese Christian person.
While Tsuneo was in captivity, his wife and children were at home in Tokyo, which was subject to intense firebombings.
They actually moved from Tokyo to the countryside. But they thought their grandpa has been killed, so they prepared for the worst.
Thankfully, Tsuneo and his family survived the war and were reunited. In 1999, he travelled to the UK for Kana and Kevin's wedding. For Talitha and Sammy, it's clear that Tsuneo continues to inspire them. Your great-grandfather had great faith, Christian faith.
Yeah. When he was a prisoner, he asked for a Bible. And that was the way he learned to speak English, by reading the Bible.
Really?
Yeah.
That's amazing, isn't it?
Yeah.
What have you learned from your visit?
I've learned that it's important to remember everyone who fought in the war because they fought for us.
As a tribute to their great-grandfather and other victims of war, they're placing origami cranes, a symbol of peace in Japanese culture, at the Arboretum's Hiroshima stone.
The fact that the children have made those peace cranes themselves and that they can come and actually physically place that on a stone that comes from Hiroshima, I think that really is, you know, the sort of profound experience that should remain with them for the rest of their lives.